when I met Jesus Christ, he was almost 10 years old. And he was helping his mother push a trolley full of all they owned. And because they couldn't find an inn they could get in, they were heading to the city and leaving Bethlehem. Couldn't you perform a miracle? I'm out of him, he said. I tried turning nothing into warmth, but it just made my mother cry. It just made my mother cry. Mary Magdalene has become a man, and tonight he's old, and she has been riding my tram. Now it's late and she's trying to sleep beneath a poster for a bank. Your dreams are important to us as it bathes her face in gold. Come give us your natural gifts, we make wealth from toil. Come pretend for history's page that we're advancing Australia fair. Let's pretend that we're all advancing Australia fair. Back down the road I found the church we built on the black man's bones was empty, and out the front a sign read all but sold. A sign read all but sold. And we all owe so much money, but to whom we're not quite sure. So head down, we just keep running along our fading golden shores. So head down, we just keep running along our fading golden shores. Come give us your natural gifts, we make wealth from toil. Come pretend for history's page that we're advancing Australia fair. Let's pretend that we're all advancing Australia fair.
How you going? It's Monday. It's Monday, and we're in, where are we? Burra in South Australia. And let's get rid of that. And tonight we have an old mate on. I've interviewed him in Adelaide, and he's been on once or twice, I think. But he's a great conversationalist, great thinker, and he's paid a terrible price for daring to think freely and speak freely in these silent times. And this is Professor Graham Lyons, and here he is. How you going?
Oh, good, Michael. Good to see you again. Been too long.
Yeah, it has. Now, since I last talked to you, I hate to say it, you've been divorced, and it has cost you a fortune.
Oh, yes. And the uni's kicked me out. That was in March last year.
So the university has kicked you out, and you've been divorced.
Well, actually, I preempted the uni. I knew they wouldn't renew my visitor status because I've been admonishing Big Pharma for the last 5 years, and that's their main funding body. So they were quite happy to see the last of me. And yeah, I don't miss it, I'd have to say. I do miss the good printer there. I haven't set up the new printer yet. A lot of good anti-vax brochures got printed on that one.
I have to say, though, when people say 99% or 90% of scientists agree with one thing, these are the ones that are just doing as they're told to maintain their funding. And so if you dare question it, you're in the 10% that are gone.
That's right. No, I was astonished actually when COVID 1984 was rolled out, the number of so-called scientists who just went along with it without a whimper, without questioning it. It still astonishes me 6 years later. And yes, I can name probably only one who's a good friend of mine who saw through that, and we wrote a number of articles together over the years. But all of the others pretty well just went along with it. A lot of them got the vax. A lot of them are in a bad shape now. Probably some of them are dead. But they didn't reveal themselves as genuine truth seekers, as a true scientist should be. So I was disillusioned with them, and I was quite happy to leave in the end.
Well, you have to think, surely, if you're in school and you're wanting to be a scientist, the truth is what you're after. How the world works, or surely you're not going in there thinking, hey, I'm going to lie for the rest of my life, but I'm going to get the funding. Surely that's not the driving force to become a scientist.
It shouldn't be, Michael, but a lot of them appear to have ended up that way. They've sacrificed truth seeking for job security, and really what universities seek from their so-called researchers is the ability to pull in grant money. And if it can be in the multi-millions, 10 or 15, 20, and if you can collaborate, so-called, with various other institutions, that's what they respect. And it needs to follow the current the zeitgeist, which is determined by the government. For example, the human-induced climate change, which is absolute rubbish, and the vax story. As long as you go along with that, you have a good chance of pulling in decent funding from the various bodies out there, including the government itself. And but if you're like me, you'll be scraping for money over the years that I was there, because the research projects I had weren't necessarily aligned with that zeitgeist, and you won't get the big money. But actually, COVID was fortuitous for me in a way, because I was scratching around for a new research question to ask at the very end of 2019. I'd finished the two projects I was on. One was in the middle of the Pacific, nutrition, soil science, etc. The other one was
Kiribati.
Yeah, Kiribati. Oh, you're one of the few people who knows how to pronounce it, Michael. Because it's Kiribati, but it's pronounced Kiribati. Those people don't. TI is an S sound, and Tuvalu was the other place, which used to be the Ellis Islands in the old British colonial days, and they're atolls mainly, and there's a lot of these so-called non-communicable diseases out there, diabetes and what have you, because of them eating the worst aspects of our so-called Western diet. But there are plants and things they can grow up there that can alleviate that, or at least reduce the risk. But and the other one was I was doing a project not far from where you are tonight at Red Hill, on a saline soil, trying to determine oats which were tolerant to salinity. And in fact, you're up near where my I'm getting used to saying my ex-wife comes from. She comes from Mount Brian East, which is a very tough area. So it's on Goyder's Line to the northeast of Burra, and it's very rugged country out there.
That's where we I think that's where we camped. If I can just, I'll just show you this picture quickly.
There's a couple of ghost towns out there, like Mount Brian East.
We just went to one today. That's where we went and took pictures there today. I might
Oh,
send
good on
some
you.
through to me. Yeah, and bring them up. It was fascinating. There's they had
Yep.
libraries and just like scattered books all over the floor and just a real ghost town. And so
Gee, yeah.
I
Oh,
was
you
actually
might be.
wondering what the history of those towns were, you know?
Oh, yes, you might be talking about Tarawi too. That's looks like a Wild West movie set.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one. But this one was I don't think this Tirali, we did go there too. We went into a few, but
Good
this
on you.
other one was just I didn't catch its name. It was let's see if I can get a picture of it here. Here it is.
There's
But it
White
was I'll send
Yakawi.
it through. Yeah, but the ground all there is goats there, just goats and
Yep.
goats and eagles eating dead roos. It's
Yes, and oh, did you see the Wilkins house up there that's been restored? You know, the great
uh,
Sir Hubert Wilkins, the explorer. He grew up within a half a kilometre of where my wife grew up, out there
okay.
at Mount Brian East, and Dick Smith spent quite a lot of money resurrecting Wilkins's
Wow.
house, which was a pile of rubble before, but
Yeah.
you can visit it, and they've done a good job with it.
There was a house there that was really good. I actually thought that might have been the person who owned the property, so we did not, but they had a beautifully restored house. I'll get these
Oh,
other images through as they come through, but the rest was just rubble. I actually found it interesting because when you see a ghost town, you realize these streets were once bustling. They had commerce. They had people falling in love. They had kids being born and growing up there. People had dreams. People had sorrows. All this stuff, all gone.
that's
Which
true.
makes you
Yep.
realize we live our lives. And you see all these people living their lives like we're immortal, and we're not. We're
That's
actually
right.
we're really mortal, and
Oh, true,
time is
Michael.
getting ready to just make us vanish into the ether. No problem at
Yes.
all.
No, we've got a brief time on this world, our consciousness, and that's right. Like Tarawi was nearly as big in its day as Peterborough, and they were
Yeah.
both very important rail towns. And in fact, at Tarawi, that's where the gauges, you had to change trains because they were both on different gauges, and that had quite a large population. And that's where Douglas MacArthur said, "I will return."
I
There's
saw
a
that. I saw they
yes,
had to,
yeah.
yeah,
So they
and also they had a junkyard there of cars, but the cars were like FJ Holdens, Humbers, real, and they're all
yeah.
just sitting there in pretty good condition because there's probably no ocean out there, or I don't know, nothing to destroy them
Mm,
completely. But it was like
mm.
and then when you went through the town, it was like stepping back in time. All the houses seem original. There's just a few Starlinks on them, but the rest is
That's right.
like
Yep.
something from the 1910 or something. It's
Mm.
extraordinary.
Well, a few
Yeah.
years ago, they must have spent a bit of money sort of doing up the facades in the main street. But yeah, it reminds me of a Wild West movie set.
Yeah,
That
that's what
main
I said
street
to
there.
tell.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
astonishing.
said to tell I could see that this would be a really good because I was in theater, but for a movie set, this I can
Mm,
understand why there's not loads of movies. You don't have to do anything. You just remove a few
no,
of the one things and the rest looks original.
that's
But
right.
this is yeah, sorry.
No, I like visiting up there now and again because our family sort of came from the mid north there, and I actually now and again I'll spend a night in one of the old hotels in Peterborough. You would have been through Peterborough today, probably.
We bypassed it because you have to go off to get to it, and we were sort of getting a
Okay.
bit weary and reading, so we didn't go into Peterborough. So Peterborough's kind of the same, is it?
Oh, just a bigger, more, much livelier place. There's a lot more people living there currently, and I don't know how they do this, but there's 3 hotels still operating in the main street, and in its
3.
day it would have, yeah, 3 still going up there, and I stay in the biggest one just for a night because it's like going back 60 years, and
Yeah,
you
that's
can
right.
stay
Yeah.
upstairs and walk out onto the big veranda and look down the street at dusk, and there'll be hardly anyone there. and it's just got an old world feel about it. And I always, there's a book I always take up there. It's called On the Margins of the Good Earth by D.W. Meinig, who was an American professor who came over here on a Fulbright scholarship around about 1960. And he wrote this very good book. It's so well written, it's like a novel, but it's actually non-fiction. And it's just about a 15-year period at most, from about the late 1870s into the 1880s, about the expansion of the wheat industry up there. And they all went well beyond Goyder's line because they thought that was rubbish. And then the droughts kicked in, they had to retreat. And this is when a lot of those railway lines were built, and when a lot of those little towns either weren't built at all, they were laid out, or they became ghost towns virtually soon after.
Yeah, what's Goyder's line? What's that thing you're talking
Oh,
about?
Goyder's line. Well, yeah, I know
yeah.
a bit about Goyder. He was the Surveyor General in the sort of 1850s to 1880s. He was a very prominent public servant, and he actually laid out the town of Darwin, because in those days the Northern Territory and South Australia were joined. They were the same entity, and he ended up living just down the road from where I am here now at Echunga at Warrakilla, and he drew this line on the map and suggested that wheat growing, agriculture should not be conducted beyond this line because it would be too unreliable with the rainfall. And it virtually coincides with the 10-inch ISO height, with the line joining areas of 10 inches of rainfall a year. I still think in inches and feet, not centimetres. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, Michael. But these people got consumed with hubris because they had several good seasons in a row, and they thumbed their nose at Goyder, who was still, I think, if he wasn't in Parliament, he was running the whole surveying outfit in South Australia. But he proved to be right, and they had to retreat, and because they went out of business. If there's no rain, you can't grow your wheat.
Wow. Well, I just got a picture here. This is there. That's one of the ones I took today. I don't know if you can see that, but I found it fascinating, man. I mean, everyone's there taking photos, but yeah, I found it fascinating. There's the other thing too. There's a lot of I don't know if this is true, but there's a lot of stone houses, just the ruins of stoned houses. And I heard when I was going through once that after World War I, the soldiers were offered land out there around the Stune and all the South Australian area, and that these houses were the houses that they built out of the stone in the area. Is that true?
Oh yes, some go back well beyond that. My wife's family, they were the first white people to go out to the Mount Brian East area. You can still see the ruins of their first house out there. It's well beyond Goyder's line. They were largely sheep herders at that time, and they worked with Aboriginal people out there. They got on well, and they were often their shepherds out there. And so you're talking pardon me, I did my run a couple of hours ago. The 1850s they were out there, and they had a lot of land, and then they had to condense that quite a lot. I think might have been in the mid 1880s. So squatters weren't allowed to have so much land up there, and they had to relinquish a fair bit of it. But right through that whole mid-north, you see a lot of those ruined houses. Some are still in quite good order. Of course, there's that famous small one. I think it's pretty close to Mount Brian on the main road. You would have passed it heading down to Burra on the left-hand side.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It appears on a lot of calendars and things. It's a little symmetrical cottage, and
yeah,
people
that's
have
right.
it Christmas cards and all sorts of things. So
Yeah, we were
that
going to
one's
take a picture, but there were so many people taking pictures, we just kept going.
oh,
Yeah,
were
I
they?
did see it.
Geez. So
Yeah.
people are on the road, and of course you'd see a lot of Winnebagos and things right in the township of Borough itself at this time
Yeah,
of year.
that's right. Yeah. But there's
And of course, well, yeah.
I just think though, you think of the 1800s and even just after the war, imagine going out there and even like we talked to people from Broken Hill the last time we were there, they said people arrived there with wheelbarrows. So trying to cross that land in a wheelbarrow with no roads, or basically trying to get there to build a house, the women wearing those old clothes that they used to wear, the men with their, the things that they used to wear, the what do you call it, the waistcoats and all that, in that
Yes,
heat
yeah.
or in those
Mm,
weather conditions with no air conditioning, no GPS, no phone to call anyone if anything happened.
mm,
Extraordinary. I mean, if you did
that's
go to
right.
World War One and came back, you're basically going into another war against the environment that you're not really built for, you know?
Yes. Well,
It's
there was quite a lot
astonishing
of that.
story.
Yeah, the soldier settlers. In fact, my family had a couple of blocks in the Upper Mallee near Parilla, Paraquet. That's a long way from where you are there now, but they had to go out and measure their block that they were allocated with a large chain. You know, they did measurements with chains in those days. And
Wow.
then, of course, Kangaroo Island had soldier settlers. That was after, I think, the Second World War, in late 40s into the early 50s, and we ended up owning a block over there. That was a productive place too at Pandana East. But soldier settler. There's quite a history there in this state, and well, probably every state, I guess. And it was pretty successful in with what it aimed for.
Yeah, wow. The other thing, the reason I reached out to you today, though, was um, I couldn't find it today, but Bill Gates came out recently and stated that climate change is no longer a problem for the foreseeable future. Now, did you hear about that?
Yes, I did. Yeah, several weeks ago.
Yeah,
Yes,
several weeks ago.
there must be something at play there, or maybe they've realised that so many people have woken up to what a scam that it is that they had to
Yeah,
have to backpedal a bit because they
yeah.
will do that sort of thing. But a lot of the rent seekers are still there plundering Australia in the name of human-induced climate change. Your
Oh,
Cannon
great, Robert.
Brookses and Andrew Forrest and what have you. Um, it's if the subsidies were removed, they would fold instantly, and
Yeah.
it's a massive scam. Yeah, it's just the latest in so many scams that Australia has been subjected to
Well, it's a
virtually ever
pre-COVID
since.
scam. So it was climate change and then COVID. What's really
Oh, yeah.
interesting
Okay.
is I was wondering about it because, like here, like you have this here, that's Brazil, and is
Mm.
saying here that the ocean hasn't risen a bit. When I was looking for that photo for this interview, Reuters is here going, this is false. And they've got all these scientists saying why the ocean has risen and why you just don't happen to see it on that day. So it's false. And, but it's, and there's other things like it. But could you consider, like in this piece I wrote, that Matthias Desmet said there was a survey done of Americans about 7 or 8 years ago or more, where he said 80% of them felt that they were purposeless lives, meaningless jobs. They were just going through the motions. And then so they really want a purpose. They really want to have a life of significance. And so they're sold climate change. Basically, fight for the world, suffer, go without, suffer, join the cause,
Mm.
and
Mm.
and to me, I'm thinking after 20 years, and some of these people have been banging away. And that piece I've written, there's some people have actually come and said, I was one of them. It took me
Mm.
15 years to wake up. Others are still fighting me. But do you think that's what they did then and also what they did in COVID? Save society, save your grandmother. they're actually selling us not just fear, but purpose, to feel like we're
you're
doing
right.
something good.
That's
Yeah.
right. There was a spiritual vacuum, largely in the West, a life of materialism, and people were looking for something there. They left a lot of the, shall we say, the received religions. They'd been in decline for a long time, and it became like a religion for them. And you saw the rise of Greens parties, and they thought they would be saving the world. So it gave them purpose, and as you say, it also applies to the COVID story. They were sold the story that you had to get vaxxed to save poor old granny and the rest of your community. It was like a collectivist or a communist sort of a mindset. How you have to take this thing yourself to help the community get through this
That's
dire
right.
problem, which never existed, of course. And the you know, yeah, I don't know where I should enter all this here now. But every
No,
time I give a talk,
this is what I'm thinking. This is really interesting. It's going deeper. Like we've been selling. Everyone's been saying, "Oh, they frighten people into doing this." But I think, well, it's more than just fear. I remember seeing when they were getting young kids taking it. There was like once your kid had taken it, a 12-year-old, he'd stand beneath a poster, and there'd be a big green arrow with hero pointing at the kid. So
yes,
basically, the kid's taking a vaccine, doesn't know what it is. His parents have given it to him
yeah,
because they think they're doing the right thing. And then
yeah,
he's getting printed is I'm a hero for doing this.
that's
And
right.
yeah,
To me, it was the whole thing smacked of pure evil, and it showed the true nature of government. Prior to that, people like me, I never really trusted government. We've had our own outfit. We've been uh, our own farming outfits and what have you. We never relied on governments. They were usually in our way. But I didn't really have a genuine knowledge of what was at the core of government. And but it sure came out during COVID. They tried to kill large numbers of us. And I used to state that whenever I spoke at rallies, and some people knew what I was talking about. Some people probably thought I was an idiot, but it's been proven correct, and they're still trying to do it. And it's the system of control, of which government is a key component. And it does a great job of putting up a benign facade, even a friendly facade. And our premier is very good at doing that, Malley, and he's got
yeah,
a nice persona. He never gets riled, and he appreciates sport, and people like him for that. And but at the very core of government, there's a certain element of evil there, I'm afraid, and
I hate.
it
Yep.
came out during COVID, and we're still seeing it, as you say. They're still pushing a safe and effective narrative, despite the fact that people like me think that it's with good justification that it's killed in excess of 150 million people worldwide. And when I state that on Substacks or what have you, I don't get too much pushback. And the only pushback I get is certain people saying that's an underestimate, mate. It's a rather
Yeah.
more than that.
Yeah.
So
The Japanese are saying 1 billion. We even I saw this, the truth is coming through. I saw this woman interviewed. I reached out to her and she said what they've done is like when they do stats, and you probably know more about this than me. And so the average deaths we do a year, the sort of the baseline, they've increased the baseline to cover up the excess deaths. So the excess deaths on because apparently that's what she's saying around the world. They're increasing the baseline to
yes, that'll be
conceal it.
right.
Yeah, the
Anything
big
evil
question
to
is, yeah,
yes. And of course, the mainstream media is under the control of the system as well. And Big Pharma is one of its biggest weapons. And it's all part of the same system of control of humanity. And I just saw an interview yesterday by you probably know of this fellow, Etienne de la Boutie, squared. He always has the little 2 after his name. He knows a hell of a lot about the true nature of government, and he's just put out a new book, which I think I'd better get. But he's always said since his first book that government is the greatest scam ever perpetrated on mankind. And we could probably say in the last 6 years, we thought it was COVID or we thought it's vaccination, but it's actually government itself. And he has profound knowledge of this, so he knows more than I do about it. So I'm going to get hold of his book, Etienne de la Boutie. And he was interviewed by Germ on Germ Welfare some months ago, and he's very good.
Talking about the government here, we'll just have a quick laugh. I put this together because Albanese, Steimer, and whoever's in charge of Canada want to ban X. And so they're moving to get Carney, moving to get X banned. And they're claiming that this is one of the reasons. So watch this.
Moved various sites that were up containing fake images of myself superimposed on other people. That's the sort of thing that is going on social media. Social media has a responsibility to do the right thing here. Have you got the one with me, Michael, with 3 eyes on the Prime Minister? You can put that up as well. Lighten up, Michael. For goodness sake, lighten up, Michael.
Okay, I will.
Lighten up, Michael.
But I just talked to another podcaster. He reckons the reason they want to ban X is because Iran is having a revolution and the mainstream media don't want to cover it. And X is just full of these images, these incredible images from Iran. And that even like here, I'll get this one up here. And this is huge news. So this is based, young women there are ripping off the burqas, are ripping off all and the hijabs, and they're using burning their leader's picture to light cigarettes. I think that's one of the most beautiful feminist images I've seen. The whole time around, I haven't seen the feminists mention anything about the women being subjugated, even the ones in Afghanistan. And we know that we talked about this last night. I'll just get this extraordinary thing here. Because this is just huge news. It makes you wonder why it's not being covered. But this was Iran in the 1970s.
Oh, I cannot explain. Every time it's the same.
So, and then they've been since the Ayatollah took over this. But this is them now. And the thing is, this is a totalitarian system that's 47 years old. And we seem to be, I just want to talk about totalitarianism now. We seem to be going sliding right into it. So that is an image of our grandchildren rising up. And as the Romanian youngsters said when they went to fight Ceausescu, they left their houses. I know in that interview I did, and they were saying, give me liberty or give me death, which means the government's lost. Because they can't govern people who only want to be killed. Either give them freedom. And yet so they want to block X maybe because they don't want these images out. But in reality, this could be our future if we go this way. We could stop it now peacefully using common sense because it's obvious what is happening. And otherwise our grandkids will be fighting like that. Why do you think Australians, don't stand up enough, even though they're sort of simmering? And why aren't they as angry as you would expect them to be, especially with all these excess deaths? Everyone I talk to has been to more funerals than they've ever been to in their lives. Where is the anger? And why aren't they even more angry than the few that are angry?
Yes, it's a good question, Michael. Of course, those, I dare say, those who've had multiple vaxes, probably affects their brains to not rebel against authority, to go along with the narrative. So that would be a factor there. But even if pre getting vaxxed, they were pretty acquiescent to what people like you and I saw as an imposition of extreme tyranny. It was quite obvious to see. And others, they had this naive faith in the government and the medical system, and they just went along with it. Yeah, I to this day, I don't understand it because it's not the way I think. And, I believe in personal responsibility, minimal government, and I just want them to keep out of my face. And when they get in my face, I react badly. And, they locked me up for 24 days in my own house for refusing that fake test up your nose, nasal rape, as I call it. And I ended up, as good as winning that case. They dropped it against me after nearly a year. They like to put you through a process, but I didn't buckle under them. But most people, including my family, went along with it all, and they're certainly not encouraged to speak outside the narrative by the mainstream media, of course, because they're fully on board with it, and they won't. They'll try and always minimise any vax damage there, and those who rely fully on the mainstream media, and there's still a lot of people here, they genuinely wouldn't, unless they've had numerous family members. In fact, even then, as you've alluded to before, they won't join the dots that these people got cancer at a young age because they bloody all got vaxxed and they got turbo cancer, or they had a stroke. Look, I was up Mount Lofty again tonight, and every time I pass a certain spot, I think of this fellow who was a fitness expert who he trained several of the top Crows players and Port Power players. He dropped dead of a cardiac arrest up there, only 43 years old, in May 2022, running down the hill, I think he was. He would have got vaxxed, but it was never mentioned, of course, in the papers. Left two young children behind, and they had a shrine up there to him, but no one, apart from people like me and the inner circle of freedom people, talked about him obviously having been killed by the vax. And the papers never said anything, and of course the coroner never does. They just try and keep this fraudulent narrative going as long as they possibly can, and the system will keep doing this, and more people will die along the way, and but it reveals the true nature of the system of control of mankind, and it's pretty ugly. And but unless most people go through their lives not realizing they're in this sort of a prison. It's got a benign face to it, but it governs your life to a large extent, unless you're like you or Max Egan or someone like that who saw through it when he was in primary school, and he got kicked out of 3 primary schools. And these are people who perceived the control system from an early age, but there aren't many like that.
No, I can see Wendy Daniel is one. G'day, Wendy. Australian deaths. I've tracked the Australian death rate each year since 2015. In 3 years following the jab rollout, 2022, 2023, and 24, we've had over 80,000 excess deaths. At late 25 is near 100,000. That's more than the town. That's more than a town the size of Bundaberg or Coffs Harbour. And this shows you the banality of evil, because that many deaths and our government doesn't talk about it. And our mainstream media doesn't talk about it. And our coroner doesn't talk about it. There are tests they can do now. You can get them in America, which can prove spike protein in the body. And they will not do those tests in Australia. And
that's right. Well, funny you should say that. I went to see a person today, a naturopath. I get my blood checked every now and again so I can experiment on myself with dietary changes and things, and he looks at live and dried blood, and he can tell a lot from that. And yeah, no, I won't get onto that other subject. I'm thinking of
that's like
giving.
David Nixon, the blood testing, because we've got David Nixon coming on tomorrow. He's got some books. He's joining the Banned Book Club. You know, Doctor.
Yes.
He was the one photographing nanobots with that dark
Yeah,
field
he's
microscope.
very good. And
Oh
in
yeah, he's
fact,
brilliant. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
I won't say any names today, but this person has had a win apparently here in South Australia. It's not probably won't be publicised at all, but he had to get that special thing that you spoke of done in Germany, where they something to do with white blood cells that no one can do properly here, to demonstrate the link to spike proteins, and that virtually won his case against SA Health, and they probably don't want that publicised, but I don't know his name, but he will take it further, I think, and because he was damaged through being forced to have, just on the first vax, he got one of those heart problems, and then they want to have him have another one, and he was about to be sacked because he wouldn't have the second one, and they changed things on virtually the day he was due to be having the second one, which would have probably killed him if he'd gone ahead and had it. So that's how intransigent and stubborn and stupid they are. It's absolute
that's why I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. Like, even you're we got the book I wrote was Goodbye Road, that John Stapleton put together. So Goodbye Road, and I say we're the orphans of Goodbye Road. And Goodbye Road means you basically kicked out of society because of what you're doing. You're just speaking up. You're just questioning, really. And people are so terrified of it, you get kicked out of your family because of it. Divorce. We meet so many people on the road and so many people in our community who have either got divorced, or their kids aren't talking to them, or their parents aren't talking to them, or even if they've reunited, it's like here, it's like a buffer. You just they're made to feel that there's something wrong with them. We're getting you back because you're family, but don't talk about your bullshit, and yet it's the truth. And or it's closer to the truth than their truth, and their narrative is collapsing around them, for everything from climate change to the COVID being full of shit, to the vaccine being completely dangerous, and they know it. That's why they're not taking it. But even though they're not taking it, they're still kicking the truth speakers out of their lives.
That's right.
How do you comprehend that? Because it's a side of human nature that I've never had to deal with, and for all the questions and all the people I've interviewed, I'm no closer to understanding it.
No, probably me neither, Michael. But there's a saying attributed to Plato that goes something like, those who can see through the lies and shadows of their culture will never be understood by the masses, let alone believed, something like that. But
Wow.
it's true. And
so that's to do with Plato's cave.
Yes, that's right. They've condensed it into one sentence. He probably never actually said that, but that was the essence of the Plato's cave story.
Yeah.
And it's astonishing to me to this day, but I never thought I'd see something of like this. I thought we'd gradually, like I've been studying this push towards the New World Order, one world government, totalitarianism, the Orwellian 1984 type thing since the mid 1980s, and got a fair feel of who are those behind it. But I thought throughout my life I'd see gradual incremental steps towards it, like what David Icke calls the totalitarian tiptoe. But I never thought I'd see it morph into a triple jump that COVID represented, much more than a tiptoe. But that motivated me to change my life, and it's had its downsides, but it's given me more purpose, I think, than I had before. I was just doing my scientific research there, and I as I said before, I was seeking a new research question. I couldn't find one quite profound enough to really interest me until COVID appeared. And that sent me on a journey of investigating vaccination per se. And the more you look at it, the more fraudulent and fake and spurious it is. So our Chief Public Health Officer has an apt name, you might say. You know her name?
Yeah.
Professor Spuria. Think about it.
What's really interesting is Stefan on here, a mate of mine and a close. Hey, I see you watching, Stefan. He posted a comment one night. I don't know if it was his. He got it from somewhere, and he said you can't inject health, and yet that's what they've convinced the world. So they've convinced the world that this baby gets born. G'day, Stefan. This baby gets born. It's only here for 20 minutes. There's no way it's going to survive in this dangerous modern world unless we're injecting it straight away. It's almost religious. It's almost like a baptism. Here you go. You know what I mean?
Michael, possibly you could take the almost out of that. And this is why whenever I give a talk now, I attack germ theory as well. I don't just stop at vaccination or maybe the fake discipline of virology. They come under the spurious umbrella of germ theory, and it puts a number of people off. But I don't care too much about that. If you're a genuine
a believer that there are no viruses, is that you're one of those? Because I
Yeah,
haven't really looked
yeah.
into that. Could you have a crack at it?
Yes, I look. If you look at what the Baileys put out there, Mark and Samantha Bailey,
Yeah.
that's my position, and it's the same as Andrew Kaufman, Tom Cowan, Steve Faulkner. Actually, I often say to people, it's rather hard to get your head around this because virtually since we're born, as you say, we're indoctrinated in this idea that most diseases out there are caused by a pathogen. In fact, it's not true. When you look at any genuine studies done on this, it's never been proven. Koch's postulates have never been fulfilled, even the first one, and there are 4 of them. He was a fraudster. Pasteur was a fraudster. Jenner, right from the start, was a Freemasonic fraudster, and they're all supported by the big pharma of their day. And in fact, the idea of mandated vaxes that kill a lot of people didn't just start, of course, with the COVID story, goes back to smallpox in early 19th century in England and Europe, killed a lot of people. Not smallpox itself, the vax
And they
killed.
mandated it.
Yes, they mandated it, and wherever it was mandated or used widely, then smallpox itself, which was actually a diverse array of conditions, it was the body trying to get rid of all the toxins inside it, induced largely by the vaxes, the poisons introduced into their body, that was classed as smallpox. And of course, Harmer of its day said, we've got a vax to deal with that. It hasn't changed. They use the same playbook right now. And then I used to believe up until well into 2020 that the Spanish flu story. And this is a good one for illustrating how spurious germ theory is. And the Baileys talk about this in their book. I haven't got it behind me there. I've loaned it to someone. It's always very in demand. It's called The Final Pandemic, an Antidote to Medical Tyranny by Mark and Samantha Bailey. That's probably the best book you can get if you're going to get a book on, because it's easy reading. They've written it beautifully. They put the examples that are important in there, and it's like a sequel, an easier to read sequel of Virus Mania, which is like the Bible of for people like me. And if you don't want to read a book like that, have a look at Steve Faulkner's 3-hour documentary called The End of Germ Theory. It's bloody good. And he talks also about the Spanish flu. Look, it's worth my while mentioning this.
Let's go back a few things. Well, just want to backpedal. I only heard the other day, this was on a Joe Rogan podcast, that TB, tuberculosis, tuberculosis, how do you say that?
Yeah,
Tuberculosis
tuberculosis. Yeah.
was caused by the smallpox vaccine. That's what they're
Well,
claiming.
well, I'm glad to see someone. I've come to that conclusion myself,
Mm.
virtually in my own mind, because I'm an appreciator like you are of good literature, and think of those great authors, the Bronte sisters, D.H. Lawrence. They virtually all supposedly died of TB or consumption, as they called in those days, phthisis, you name it. And I got to thinking that when I started examining germ theory, were those people possibly killed by the bad smallpox vax?
Yeah.
I reckon probably most of them were. In fact,
Yeah.
it was shown that Emily Bronte on her, and it would have applied to her sisters as well, when they went to the Harworth Primary School, the box was ticked for the smallpox vax. And they all ended up dying of so-called TB. And in fact, TB has never been, that was, I think, Koch might have got his Nobel Prize or something for supposedly coming up with the pathogen that caused TB. Well, in fact, that was never proven. And so the vax that they developed for TB was never any good. And I remember them giving that out mandatorily at primary school when I was there and watching these children line up for it. In fact, this is what started me on my anti-vax journey when I was probably about 10 years old. And it would look like something out of Nazi Germany. And there was this woman from SA Health up there running her needle through a candle. They didn't change needles then. They sterilised it through a candle flame. And I thought,
Wow.
I'm never going to submit to that. I will leave school before I have to stand in a line like that. And
Wow.
so now I'm getting back at them for putting me through that angst that I had then. And
Yeah.
so now I'm sure getting back at them. And whenever I hear that people vaccine hesitancy, so-called, is on the rise, and CSL share price has gone down 45% since its high in, I think, July 2024. It's now down 45%. My cousin's on the board, and I warned her about 2 years ago that it might be a good idea to get off that board, but she hasn't heeded me because largely people in America are waking up to the fraudulence of vaccination, and largely because of the COVID story. They pushed it too hard, as they always do, and now it's backfired on them, and people
Driven by
don't trust
greed.
any vaxxers.
Yeah. So you look at,
Oh,
say,
love-
smallpox. So smallpox could have induced TB, and then the theories, and then
Yeah.
the first there's another DDT. Reckon is the reason for polio. Then they created a vaccine for polio, but polio was created by DDT because they said it was created by dirt, but then in the third world where they lived in dirt, they didn't have it, and and it goes from there. Now we have all these cancers theoretically caused by the vaccine, turbo cancer, which we've never heard of before. No one talks about it, but people,
That's
g'day,
my
puss.
best friend.
and
That's my
now they're coming
friend.
out with vaccines against cancer. So vaccines to
Yeah.
create. It's almost like a business model where you set up a glass repair business, and then you send your employees down to break all the windows in the town to come down and go, oh, your window's broken. Guess what?
That's
I just
right.
set up a window replacement
Well,
business.
you're right. You can drop the almost from that. That is their business model, and they're pure evil, big pharma, as far as I'm concerned. And yes, I keep thinking of the Spanish flu, Michael, because
Yeah,
there's a
the
great
Spanish flu
example.
caused by vaccine too. That's what they claim. Caused
Well,
by
yeah,
vaccine.
and
Killed more
well,
people than killed more people than World War One.
yeah, and you're right on the polio story. It started off as lead arsenate was had neurological symptoms which are similar to polio, and then they replaced that with DDT, and that was even worse. So that partial paralysis that is attributed to a virus was never caused by a virus. It was by those environmental toxins, and you can, that's proven on the graphs, the epidemiological graphs that Harmer tries to drop down the Orwellian memory hole. But during the Spanish flu, there was a group of researchers in Boston Harbor on an island, and Rosenau was the lead scientist, and they tried their damnedest to demonstrate the communicability or the transmission from human to human of the so-called virulent deadly H1N1 flu virus. They couldn't demonstrate one case. And they tried hard, and it was the days when you could use prisoners for doing this. They got a pardon unless they were a particularly bad murderer. They wouldn't be allowed in the trial probably. But if they participated, and they did horrible things like getting fluids from people who had the symptoms of flu, which would have been from bad vax or from having lungs damaged on the front during the First World War through chlorine gas, mustard gas, a lot of lung damage. So a lot of people dying of pneumonia after the war caused by that, basically. But then they started on this suite of very bad vaxes, firstly trialled on, pardon me, American soldiers, hapless soldiers. That's a captive audience. And they started getting sick from that. And anyway, Rosenau et al. Could find not one case. They got people to breathe repeatedly on people who had no symptoms. And it was all done very systematically. And then it was repeated by another group in San Francisco. And you won't easily read about this. They've tried to drop it down the memory hole. But the flu wasn't transmissible. So these are the things that have gone on. And then over 100 years later, let's not forget HIV/AIDS along the way, fostered by Harmer and Fauci. Fauci's been around a long time. And as you heard this story, I dare say, most of those poor men were killed by AZT and not by any virus. The HIV was never characterized, the same as COVID, same as polio, never isolated nor characterized. And so that's my position. That's the Bailey's position. That they enunciate it better than I can. And so don't just accept, people listening there, accept germ theory just because it sounds as if it's right and all those pathogens are out there trying to get us. They're not. It took me, I'd say, probably
born into a web of lies.
Yeah, we are. We're born into
businesses that want to make money.
That's right. A web of lies.
Yeah.
And in fact, I remember when I was visiting the family, they're all up in Brisbane. We went to the Holland Park Library there because to take two of the youngsters along. And there was a book there called Germ Theory for Toddlers. How about that? I made sure I buried it under a pile of innocuous books there so no one would read it for a while. But this is the sort of indoctrination you get. And of course, almost the entire medical profession is fully immersed in germ theory, and you'd be considered a nutter if you questioned it. But I believe it needs to be questioned, and it's not good enough just to call out the so-called coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2, because while germ theory remains in place, the perpetrators will keep perpetrating. As long as the door is open there for them to do it under the umbrella of germ theory, they will keep doing it and inflicting medical tyranny upon the hapless populace. So that's why I talk against germ theory these days, and I consider that I'm on firm ground, and I don't care if people...
Isn't it extraordinary? Because you've got to deal with the fact. It's like what happened in COVID, for a lot of people, they can't do it. It's like you're being abused by a parent, because a lot of kids that were, say, sexually abused by a parent didn't realize it until they go to school or something happens in school and they say, "Oh, that's sexual abuse." And they go, "Oh, my parent, my dad, my mum's been doing that to me forever. I'm
Yeah,
being abused."
terrible.
No, it's it's
Yeah.
it's almost like that with this. I told people the other day, if you want to understand what it feels like to one day in one moment realize the entire world is lying to you, Santa Claus. You're
Yeah.
you're about you're about 7, 8 years old. There's no reason not to believe because you're getting presents, so there's every reason to keep
Mm.
believing, but you just can't believe it, and then you realize the MSN is lying to you, the government is lying to you, the parents lying to you, aunties lying, everyone's there's no Santa Claus. No one's coming down the chimney. So we're actually have an apprenticeship in dealing with the fact that everyone, because we got through that, and then there's the Easter Bunny. It never ends.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
No, true.
And
But then,
yeah,
then
it's
they'll
true.
say, but if there's no Santa Claus, who drank the milk and ate the biscuits during the night?
That's right.
You know?
But you get
No,
used to it, so we can actually survive it. But I just want to go a few things Ben Clifton put in, and this is Ben Clifton's a great. You should come on, Ben. I'd love you to come on. Ben Clifton said, "You want? I can't say what he said. One argument against vaccinations: the Amish. Simple that. The Amish. That's your argument. They don't have autism. The only autism they have there is from the kids they adopt. You know, so they don't.
mm,
So we know this. So it's an indefensible lie, but people are so indoctrinated in the system they can't do it. They want to believe Santa still exists. Uh, the other thing though that I'm interested in, going back to those destroyed towns or the ghost towns. The second one you said Timu or something. What was it? What was that town? Tiru with the old cars. The one with the old cars and stuff. Um, 3 churches or 4 churches in those towns. One of them's
Tarawi.
been converted. The other ones, yeah, the other ones are just sitting there. And
Mm,
everywhere I go, they have these tiny little dying towns, and there's these well-built churches. The community spent more time and effort building their churches than they did their own houses. That's
mm.
how important God was in them. And now they're just empty or being rented out for something else. I think that's
That's right.
extraordinary that God has actually left Australia. I know people say people are going back to church now, but not to the extent they were. Adelaide is the city of churches, you know?
It's also the city of some of the worst murders ever
Yeah,
perpetrated in
yeah, yeah.
Australia.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I
The,
know. Yeah.
we've got some rippers here. The Yeah, have you seen the
Where are
Rachel
we? Yeah.
Vaughan testimony? Rachel Vaughan and her brother. That's got to be one of the most horrific uh, stories of mass murder in Australia. Her father, Mac.
Oh, yes. I've reached out to her to get her coming on. Her father was she thinks was
Yeah.
the Beaumont killer. And what's really interesting,
Well,
though, I used to have a joke. This is about Adelaide. Adelaide, you're going to be very upset with this joke, but it's true. Because I've traveled around a lot, you meet people that are traveling. And what they say, this is what they say to you. They go, I think I'm going to Perth. I've always wanted to go there for the weather and just to get away from everyone. I want to go to Darwin for the adventure. I want to go to Sydney to just because it's Sydney. I want to go to Melbourne, Brisbane. You very rarely meet anyone who's going to Adelaide. Who go, I want to go to
mm,
Adelaide. They never say it. I don't know why. Well, what they usually say is, I'm just going to visit my mum. So basically, if you listen to that all the time, Adelaide would be where all our mothers live and serial killers. So if you're going there prepared, there's a good chance you won't come back. But that's sort of how it is. And yet Adelaide's a beautiful city. I love it. But it's just something
yes,
really
well,
strange that you hear, you know what I mean?
it is a pity, but I mean, everyone knows the story of who's the fella from the Belanglo forest.
Yeah, Ivan
Ivan
Milat.
Milat. Ivan Milat is made to look like a rank amateur by Alan Maxwell McIntyre, who killed hundreds of infants and children at the behest of the so called Adelaide elite of that time. We're talking 60s, 70s, into the 80s. Most people in Australia have never heard of him because he was protected by highly placed people, bit like Jimmy Savile being protected by the fella you saw in the bikini earlier on, Starmer. He was the public prosecutor who ensured that Jimmy Savile, who they say groomed an entire nation, was never brought to book during his lifetime. He was protected by Starmer and by royalty. And that's how rotten the British establishment is. But we've got our own kangaroo version out here, our own colonial version of people who commit those atrocities, and they're still among us. And this is something that the average person finds very hard to countenance. They're incredulous about such a thing, and that's how the perpetrators keep getting away with it. That's probably the main reason they do. The incredulousness of the general populace that there could be so-called humans living among us who actually indulge in this form of behaviour. And my mind, it's taken me the last few years to get my mind around that one. It took about 3 months to get my head around germ theory as being a dud, 3 months to get around the idea of elite gender inversion. I'm sure you've come across that one, Michael. That's one that stops most people because, again, they're so incredulous that, Hollywood is what it is. And many well-known sports people, sportswomen, singers, entertainers are not the sex that they were born with. It's astonishing, absolutely astonishing. It's all part of this so-called ruling class that runs the world. It's about worshipping their satanic gods, and those who grow up in these sorts of families, they are meant to sacrifice certain family members to their gods. And it's astonishing. It's pure evil, but it's rather widespread. Very interesting stuff.
It's interesting, isn't it? How, because if you're going back, I think we've always been aware that things aren't as they seem. 9/11 was the perfect example. When we saw, we thought, we all sat there and watched these buildings come down and planes flew in. You know, it was grand, it was theatrical, it was majestic. And then not soon after that, you were thinking, hang on, the plane that crashed into the field evaporated. Hydrogen planes evaporated into a hole.
Oh,
And then
no.
I remember after that Concorde crashed full of fuel and the debris was everywhere. So how come Concorde, the fastest plane in the world, didn't evaporate, but this normal airliner did? Pentagon didn't have any cameras on that day when a plane flew into it. Just had one security camera because suddenly things just didn't make sense. And yet we were sitting there with this complete lie in front of our faces. Remember, it was on TV 24/7 for weeks. Nothing else. It was just 7/11, 9/11, 9/11. But then you go, if it's all a lie, what can you do about it? And this is what a lot of people have said. I've met a few people whose partners have said to them, I won't say who now, that they're so small and whoever's in charge is so big, they're going to do what they're told to stay safe. And I wonder if people, they're aware that there's a boogeyman, which is probably the government, and big pharma and stuff and big food all around us. But if they just sort of keep focused and keep looking this, maybe they'll won't get affected. I don't know. It's not that they have to know everything, but they know something's wrong, but they don't want to know. And I've heard that loads of times too. I don't want to know.
Oh, exactly. That's the mindset of the French term bien pensant. A bien pensant goes along to get along. They won't do their own research. They most of them, yes, do know there's something wrong there, but to save themselves losing old friends or family or $1 of their income, they will just go along to get along. It's a cowardly attitude as far as we're concerned. But no, that is widespread. And there's something I was going to, I've forgotten what it was going to be, but it's a very widespread phenomenon, that one. And the not an easy one to overcome, but you can't comply your way out of tyranny, basically. So they're going to get a shock one day, because the more people comply, the more the perpetrators keep doing the totalitarian tiptoe. And I got a feeling there's going to be, in this year 2026, it's going to be a bit more than just a tiptoe. There will be some big bad events happening this year. Certain people look into these things by the numbers, and it's not something, it would make me vomit looking into some of the way some of these groups operate. Try not to do too much of it, just enough to get by and understand where they're at. But yeah, I think we're in for an interesting time this year. But
me too.
My motivation is to I need to be able to look in the mirror at the end of each day and not be confronted by a coward, Michael. And you can say that. You've never been confronted by a coward. You don't take a backward step. But with the knowledge we have, we can't just sit back and go along with it. Then I wouldn't be able to live with myself. I don't care how much this stance costs me. I feel this is what I need to be doing now. It's almost like an inner voice. What they call it, a diamond, a demon, a diamond, DAEMON. It virtually rules people like us, and and you daren't go against it, because then you will be destroyed. You may as well kill yourself. But actually, on the vax story, the excess deaths one. I'm not sure how I can ever smile when I talk about this, but sometimes when I look back at some of the interviews I've done, I do smile during this. I don't know how I do it, because it's horrible stuff. You would have followed the Barry Young story in New Zealand.
Yeah, we had him on Sunday. Yeah, we
good on you.
Paul Oosterhouse, who does a Sunday show with me, that was the doctor they got across. They flew him to Auckland to look at the data.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah. Yes,
but it was all done under secret. I was terrified. I was thinking he's going to get arrested. That's the last we'll see of Oost. So I was very concerned. I couldn't tell anyone. So I'm like, and it's me, can't tell anyone. That's hard. And so we've got that connection. Liz Gunn and I are very close. She's incredible. And
she's very good.
Yeah, she is. So we've got her and Barry Young here together. And but I do think, like, we're talking about problems now. I just want to, as we're doing this year is going to be tough, but we have had a sort of a reactionary stance to everything. I was talking to Michael Ginsberg. He's coming on Wednesday, and he's talking about it's amateur hour has to end. We've got to stop being reactionary and try and get on a front foot with things. And so here at Café Locked Out, we've set up this banned book company. Other things now, we're like, that's try to basically tell people, if you want to protect your own history, the history you're living in, you've got to buy books or write books, and we got to save them, because anything you do online, they can go back, AI can go back and rewrite it. You know what I mean? Right. They could get back into your Substack, Graham, and just have you going, I was completely wrong, viruses are real, and you wouldn't even know.
That's right.
But a book, they can't do that. They can't go around to people's books and do that. So, Dr. David Nixon has got some books. He's going to put them in. I might even reach out to the Baileys to see if they want to do. So they're going to put their books in here now. But so that's also art is to give us an identity, and our community who has withstood 5, or now this is our 6th year of this nonsense war, which is what it is. It's like a nonsense war, and we're just common sense protectors. This is what I've been trying to put out, is that's what we are, really. We just, everything you say is just common sense. When you just look, there's the evidence. You might not like it because you've been living in a web of lies, but that's the evidence. They've never proven viruses exist. So, you know.
Yeah, no, I think terrain theory overrides germ theory. And you're talking of books. I've just taken down a couple from my bookcase there. Here's several good ones. That's Ivan Illich's famous book, Limits to Medicine. he foresaw this medical tyranny that was published in 1976, and
Wow.
he could see that the way the medical system was going and big pharma, if he'd been alive today, he wouldn't have been surprised by the COVID coup, I believe. And then,
Yeah.
of course, here's another good one. You know this one from Judy Wileman.
Yep.
Vaccination. It's hard to get the angle right there. That was very prophetic work. She published that. That was a summary of her PhD thesis. Came out in 2015, I think, several years before COVID, talking about Australia's loss of health freedom, health policy in Australia, vax policy, fostered by both sides of politics.
Sorry. I've just got a question here from Viv. What's the name of the Bailey's book?
The latest one is called The Final Pandemic, an Antidote to Medical Tyranny. And it can be got via their website. You'd easily find. Yeah.
We'll see if they want to join us here because they're in New Zealand. That'd be a good interview, actually.
Yeah.
They've been on the
Yeah.
Cardi Girls. Yeah.
And Samantha was a co-author on Virus Mania before that. That's a much bigger book. It's a weightier book.
What was the last book you were going to? What was the last book here? I interrupted you for a second. There was one
no
book.
problems. Well, this is a friend of mine. How can I get that so it's to be seen? A Vaccine Journey by Raina Cruz. There she is. And she's in jail. She's in jail, yes.
I've interviewed her, and when I saw that, I thought, oh my God, she's in jail. So
yes,
can you give us some? I've heard she's in jail because she pulled the hair of a police officer. That's what they've charged her with.
Yes,
and she's got
that's
like
right.
2 years.
Oh, she got nearly 4 years.
4 years.
In fact, she, astonishingly, this may be some Freemasonic nonsense that goes on. She got the same length of sentence as Rainer Fulmich in Germany.
Wow.
And that was a massive miscarriage of justice. The German authorities kidnapped him from Mexico,
That's right.
absolutely illegally, flew him to Germany, took him about a year for them to actually have a trial. It was like a kangaroo court and a spurious charge, a fake charge. And he's been locked up for, there he is, yeah. And so I'm a supporter of Rainer, brilliant attorney. And the reason they've locked him up. We're trying to reach out
to have a discussion with I keep reaching out to all the people supporting him to just try and get an interview. So if you know anyone that'd like to be interviewed from the people that are supporting him in Germany, that would be a great interview.
I'm not sure that he can be interviewed at the moment because he was
not him, but any of his supporters, anyone actually.
Oh, I can do that. Yeah, I'm in touch with probably his best supporter, Seba Terabellini.
Maybe we could do a dual interview. You and come on. I'd love to do that.
Okay, I'll make a note of that. Yeah, she visited
Rainer twice. He's a beautiful man. I'm sorry.
Yes.
You have
interviewed me.
Inside you can tell someone's character.
Yeah.
And you might get it wrong a few times, but in most of your life you bang on. And he's a beautiful man.
That's what I thought. In December 2021, he interviewed me for an hour, and he had that woman who was with him. This was when they were running the Corona Consultative Committee. Viviane Fischer, who later betrayed him, and she was there at the table too. And I could see, what a great bloke he was. And they've made a political prisoner of him because he was exposing the corona hoax in a big way. And it's not only that, I think it's because he had wins against two of the big corporations in Germany, Volkswagen and Deutsche Bank. Sometime before COVID, Deutsche Bank's a particularly corrupt outfit, and he had wins. And the system of control doesn't like little people having wins against it. So they took the opportunity to lock him up. And the whole thing was corrupt, like the prosecutor, the judge, attorneys, his previous friends who turned against him. They must have been offered large amounts of money by the government to do that. And at any rate, he's holding up well. this lady Seba visited him just before Christmas and said he was in good spirits and he would have appreciated a visit at that time. And several people saw him before, including Andrew Bridgen, the great
Yeah,
ex-MP
and the
from
bridging,
England. Yes, who stood up against COVID. And I can never forget the image of Andrew Bridgen telling the truth about the vax to a near empty Westminster Parliament.
Yeah.
And the few that were in there, all except about 3, were ushered out by a very devious character. Well, my cat's getting up to mischief here, but they looked like a bunch of cockroaches heading for the nearest stone as they were ushered out of Westminster.
I know.
It was the most pathetic thing I've ever seen.
He actually said, I saw this in a quote he did. I interviewed him once, but he said this in this quote because he does a lot with Liz Gunn. He said he was approached in Parliament a few times, and what they said to him was the Parliament was not going to recognise vaccine injuries for 20 years from the COVID vaccines. That was their stance.
Oh, that'd be right. That'd be right.
So
20 years, yeah.
Let
That's
'em all
how evil
die.
they are.
Yeah, so they don't care. And this is the fundamental lie, is that they're trying to get you to believe and tell your kids that the system cares for you when the system just does not, you know?
That's right. No,
Yeah.
you've got the story right there. And yes, so I've got these 2 friends who are in jail at the moment, and I've visited Raina here in Adelaide with Stuart Lindsay,
Raina.
the former judge. Yeah, Raina
Oh, yeah,
Cruz,
yep.
Raina, and Rainer Fulmick, Reiner.
Yeah.
Any rate, she should not be in jail at all.
No.
Her case was originally it was suspended. She was given a suspended sentence. Then it was appealed, of course, by the director of prosecutions, the attorney general, the premier, the police commissioner. They all determined that a wicked anti-vaxxer like this lady should not be seen by the public as being treated so lightly. And on the night of one of the rallies, late 2021, it was one she and I spoke at. She probably had a few drinks at the Exeter Hotel on Rundle Mall there, and anyway, the police were called in, and in fact, the policewoman inflicted more assault damage on Raina than vice versa. But when this case was appealed, the judges weren't shown the full video that showed the incident for what it really was. And this woman, the policewoman, suffered from alopecia, which means her hair was falling out anyway. They made a story of it as if Raina was very violent towards her, ripped her hair out. Nonsense. She shouldn't be in jail. Anyway, she's holding up well. She's a strong person. And
What jail is she in? Because we're in South Australia. Maybe I should visit her, and I wonder if they let me visit her.
Yep.
What
Well,
jail
you'll
is she
have
in?
to. She's in the Adelaide Women's Prison on Grand Junction Road, and
Adelaide.
it takes a bit of organising, though, Michael. Like I had to write her a letter and then get her replying, and then another letter giving my full name, birth date, and Stuart's as well, because Stuart wanted to visit her too. And then we, out of the blue, a text message came to both of us saying, you've got an appointment next Friday at a particular time, be there early. And so we went, and I'm not sure how amenable you would be to giving biometric data to them, Michael, but that was the only way to get in. Like, what do they do? Retinal scans and your fingertips going underneath. Yes, to get in there. But I thought, look, I'm not going to let her down by not going through that.
No.
So,
ASIO has all that. ASIO has that all information anyway.
Yes,
so
they've got it anyway. I'm not going to go for the digital ID nonsense.
I wouldn't do it to get access Facebook, but
no. But at any rate, she appreciated our visit, and it went well. We had, I think, nearly 40 minutes there with her, and she's holding up well. She's very strong. She's had plenty of tragedy in her life, and she's overcome it. And in fact,
And
what
that's
sent her
4
on?
years for pulling hair. That's it. 4
Yeah,
years for pulling
yeah,
hair.
that's right.
Yeah.
And she was sent on. She calls her book "A Vaccine Journey." What sent her on that journey was her 2-month-old son was killed by a multiple vax. He died
Yeah.
a day after having it at the age of 2 months. And so imagine the guilt that she would be carrying. At the time, she trusted the medical profession, she trusted vaccination, trusted the government even. She doesn't now. And 5 years later, her husband died in a car crash. Brother fell off the back of a ute or some
Mm.
incident like that. And so she's had a lot to deal with. Any rate, her daughters keep in close touch. They're in their 20s, and she's got pretty good support, and she makes sure she keeps fit and strong, eats well. And so I would suggest she would come out of this stronger even than when she went in. And
Mm.
but of course, she's hoping that she'll get some of this sentence able to be served under home detention. But
Mm.
up against this, of course, is the government and the police commissioner thinking that if they let Rayner out early, it sends a bad message to the public that anti-vaxxers can be treated lightly. This is what they'll be
Yeah.
thinking. And
What a shame
so,
the anti-vaxxers aren't new migrants. I mean, I saw something today. They've, these new migrants that have killed people have been allowed to stay here. One's allowed to rape people, allowed to stay here.
oh, yes, that's no
I
good.
saw something in England now. If you're a convicted pedophile or a convicted rapist because of DUI or DEI, whatever in the UK, you can now become a police officer.
Gee,
So
a
a
convicted
convicted
rapist.
pedophile can become a police officer. A convicted rapist can become a
That's
police
terrible.
officer.
That's
Can you imagine that?
disgraceful.
Yeah,
It's
I've sent
it's
it
well,
through. These things are coming through. The other one we have,
yeah.
the NSM boy Joel is in jail in Melbourne, and he hasn't really done anything. It's just political prisoners now. We live in a time of political prisoners, which means
Gee.
either of us could end up in jail. They don't
Oh, yes,
need an excuse.
that
It's
wouldn't
just time.
surprise me. And then, of course, my wife will say, "Oh, I've been vindicated. I knew he was on a bad trajectory. That's why I got out. I can just see it now." The
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he, and
yeah.
and
It's
of
like a
course,
badge of honor.
poor old Aussie Cossack. He's still in the embassy in Sydney there.
Yeah, that's right. Now, the
Yeah.
other thing too, which going back to what we started with, the other one I wanted to bring up, Kiribati, which is really interesting, is because Kiribati now, Al Gore, is 20 years since Al Gore brought out The Inconvenient Truth, which had everyone go, oh my God, oh my God. And it was very clever how they did it. You couldn't see it because of the boiling frog thing. And even though the weather in the last 20 years has actually worked against them because the planet has actually not heated up and Antarctica has grown. So, but what was really interesting is 20 years ago today, but Kiribati by now should have been so far underwater that all the people should be living in Australia. Just come here because they can't live. But you've actually been there because they don't take tourists. I believe they have a thing that they take. They're not into really having tourists there. Somebody told me went there once. In fact, what he told me, he was a scout leader, which is dubious, but he used to go there and he said they used to eat spam in like huge tins, not the little tins. Like they have a massive tin of spam and that's what they put on the table and stuff like this. This is things he's telling me about this remarkable country. But when you were there, were you wearing your Wellingtons because it was sinking into the sea or were you dry?
No, I was dry. In fact, there's studies been done for the last 60 years that show the land area of both those countries, Kiribati and Tuvalu, has actually increased. But of course, the
Ta-da.
mainstream media doesn't want to hear about that. But
No.
there are studies which have shown that. Sometimes it's due to, they'll make causeways and things and put up breakwaters and what have you that stop erosion a bit. But even though most of those atolls are only about, the highest point is often 1.5 meters above high tide, no, they're still very much there, and they're not going away, and all that stuff is nonsense. And but that money is thrown their way often to repeat that stuff and make it look as if they are going under, but they're not. And no, well, you can see why a person like me was up against it, trying to get them to eat healthy food if that's what they were eating, according to your friend. But yes,
That's
they do. They like high sugary drinks and things, and white flour and white rice, and sometimes they won't bother going fishing, and of course they've got a much more sedentary lifestyle than they had in the old days. So
yeah.
and they genetically they're more susceptible to some of these things like diabetes even than we are, and we're susceptible enough. And other groups are susceptible too, like Polynesians, Indians are particularly susceptible to that sort of stuff. And so, yeah, I was trying to get them to eat some of these other nutritious leafies that grow well on atolls. They can grow well under fairly poor nutrition.
Oh wow.
You just need a bit of composting out there because it's coralline soil or so-called soil. The water goes straight through it if there is a rain. You need a bit of water holding capacity built up in it, and you can once you do that, you can actually grow pretty well anything there.
Well, just saying these here. This is. I'll just show you if it goes through. I think it's. So that's where we camped for 2 days. That's that area you said is very arid. It's about 60 k's west of Broken Hill, on the way from Broken Hill to Petersburg. They got the train line, and we were there. It was. I loved it. It was magic. I got on the bus this morning to do a 360. I was the mountain. I was the Everest of that landscape. You know, I had flies and cockroaches trying to conquer me. There's
To get to the highest point. Yeah.
to get to the highest point. Now, there's with your PhD and the work you do, is there any way that we can make these arid parts of our country actually grow food? Is there any way we can make them arable? Arable?
Well,
Make
there were
them
projects talked about probably from 100 years ago or more about piping water sort of from the Ord region or some of those
from like
other
our
northern regions, that get
Yeah.
high rainfall into the interior, but they never sort of came to fruition. So water is the main limiting factor. Look,
So
okay,
that's
some of
it.
those
Water.
soils.
Water is the case because isn't the Artesian
Yeah.
Basin right underneath them?
Oh yes, yep, under part of it, but they're capping some of those now. They don't want some of them used, and but the look also cover on the ground is a key factor. Like there was a man I saw a video of talking about this in relation to might have been sub-Saharan Africa, how he was actually encouraging well managed grazing by
Yeah, I've heard of
cattle
this.
and sheep, and if
But close
you
together so that
that's
they're
right.
they're
And
pissing and shitting
yes,
on the land, and
oh,
that's actually
you've seen that.
fertilizing the land.
Was that
Yeah,
Mr. Savary? I think his name was.
yeah.
Yeah, he might be a sir, someone. But yeah,
I
it
think
was
that
good.
came from elephants in South Africa, somewhere in Africa. They were
Yes, and they had to
shooting
get
out,
rid of a lot of the elephants. Yes,
and
that
then they
sounded
realized
terrible.
it was actually it was more a detriment to the land than a benefit, you know?
Yes, that's right. And he was trying to get back to the old nomadic approach where they keep moving, keep the stock fairly close together in a high number, and
Like the
but then
bison
kept
in
moving.
America.
Yes, so this helped with the grass cover and the manure on the surface, and of course that keeps moisture in. That's just mulching, and so that's a key thing. Trying to get back to that sort of a system. Um, some of our old soils, of course, are very depleted in certain minerals because they're very weathered, and so sometimes they need to be added, if only in trace amounts. But yeah, it can certainly be done, and but it
Because
needs to
we
be
have all
done
this
carefully.
space, Professor. We have, sorry to interrupt, but we
I
have
love being
us.
called professor because the uni never
You are a
did call me
professor.
that. I never
They're
never quite achieved a professorial level because I was
Oh,
never on the never on the faculty. I was always
You're
externally
never on
funded.
you're
No,
not
I
on
was
that list.
never on the faculty because, and I never sought to be. All I wanted to do was pursue my own research, which I thought would be of benefit to
Yeah.
mankind, and I didn't want to spend time trying to climb the ladder and become a professor. That didn't interest me too much. Because I actually joined the uni at the age of, I don't know, 45 or more,
Yeah.
after I'd been a agriculturalist for some time, a farmer, and bred cattle. But so I was not a career scientist from an early age. But anyway, no, it's nice to be called professor. I
Yeah,
suppose
it's
I was a
good.
visiting professor in a university in the middle of China, and I'm still in touch with those people
There you
because
go.
the big plateau up there is deficient in selenium, iodine, zinc, and certain other micronutrients. And we conducted some very interesting trials up there, and had one of their main academics come down and spend a sabbatical with us. He's a professor now, even though I'm not, Michael. But I'm in touch with them, and I help them with their writing their papers and what have you. And they always treated me very well when I went over there.
Yeah. So, but what I was saying about is we have all our young people thinking they can't afford a house. They line up in the major cities and in the major towns. In fact, everywhere there's homelessness everywhere.
Mm,
Trying to rent just this tiny little bricked up space, and usually shitty little flats. I mean, right next to us now, I had a guy come up to me. He's living in a caravan with his 5-year-old. The woman's taken off, and he said, I can't afford a house. He's living in the caravan is from the 60s. And he says, I
mm,
just, so they live in that. They can't afford it. They just drive around, trying to get work here and there. And so to me,
mm,
though, there's all this immense space out there. Housing shouldn't be an issue. I mean, if we were getting, could bring life to the soil and start growing things, and it's possible for us to do it,
mm.
then we could have a completely different Australia. And the property thing wouldn't be an issue
That's
because
right.
I can't get over the space. Even though I've lived on the road now for ages and I've seen it, every time you're out there, it's the whole country is built for dreamers and freedom because you're sitting there and
Mm,
it's like there's nothing. It's like you've got a Lego kit and there's no plans. You can make whatever the hell you want because
mm,
you just got to use your imagination, your drive, your stubbornness, totally up to you. You don't want to do it, you'll end up with one of these broken down brick houses and you're gone. But if you succeed, you might end up with a town named after you. It's actually there it is. This is like a clean palette when I'm out there seeing it. At the moment, the only thing out there using it is the goats. And
yeah.
but I see
Mm,
this all over Australia, and I've been to the Ord River. I mean, the Ord River Dam is bigger than Sydney Harbour, and it's just
mm,
sitting there, all this water. So
mm,
I know they're using it for cotton, which is, I believe, one of the worst crops you can have on
mm,
isn't cotton, I believe, was the crop that saw Steinbeck's grapes of wrath, saw all the farmers being kicked off their lands because they were making huge
that-
cotton farms and kicking them off. So
yes, could well be right. Yep.
could you envision from a good point of view that if Australians actually fobbed off this woke agenda hierarchy, got rid of them all, and actually said, okay, how can we start? We're going to tax our minerals and our this so we get a good money
Mm,
base. We're going to
mm,
tax that and we're going to have money. We're going to be powerful again. And we're going to bring in these migrants. They're actually going to be placed for them because we're going to make all this country livable. And we have the techniques to do it. We have the ability to do it. We've just got to have the motivation to do it. And do you
mm.
think it's possible that a country like that could exist?
Well, it should be because, yeah, it should be a lot better here than it is now. But we've been subjected to, we're still under, I think, colonial rule, actually.
Mm,
Most people would think I'm wrong here, but you've got to look at the influence of the City of London. which is still very powerful. Most people neglect that. They'll think, oh, our enemy's China or what have you. But the City of London is actually still at the core of the world system of control, linked to Washington, D.C., Vatican, or the inner core of it, and Switzerland. And that's the system of control, or its epicenters. And ever since Australia had white folk living here, we've been ripped off by these colonial masters, whether it was beef barons or through our minerals. Do you remember what 10 years ago? It might have been a Labor government trying to get the big
Red
mining
tax?
companies to pay a decent level of a royalty to
Yeah,
what they
right.
were taking out of Australia, and what a fuss they kicked up, and
Yeah.
full page ads in all the papers for months. And so I'm not sure that they succeeded in the end. But and the latest rip-off, of course, is the so-called renewable energy story. Look at the companies getting our massive subsidies for that.
Yeah.
They come from France, Germany,
Yeah.
probably England, America, and they're
I
getting
think it's
huge
600,000.
subsidies.
That's why we lost our page. We had the major Facebook page we had taken down was Four Corners did an attack piece on Alex, who we'd interviewed in Perth, who said she'd been studying the wind turbines for one of the major parties, and she said it's a rort. They don't provide this. They don't do what they're supposed to do. And I think it's like $600,000 a year for each one. Most of that
Yeah,
money goes overseas,
yeah,
and they're just a rort. And our power prices are going up because of it.
yeah,
And even today, we're driving down that road, and there you see fields of them, just
yeah, that's
forests of
right.
these things,
God,
and
they're
it's
so
blowing like
ugly.
crazy, and they're not
Yeah,
turning.
yeah,
They're not
no, they
turning.
ruin
It's
the
wind
view
blowing
there. Yeah,
the
yeah,
wind's blowing
coming
the bus
from,
around like this, and these things are stock still.
yeah. And they're going to put them on the Razorback now, I believe, leading up to Mount Bryan itself, which is
Why
in
wouldn't
that
they?
Mount
Look at the
Bryan
money
East.
they're making.
Yeah, that's right. No, it's a
You know?
criminal enterprise, and this country has the best natural resources in terms of energy of probably any in the world.
Mm,
The best black coal you can find anywhere, uranium, and then they have to get us enmeshed in this rort of
gas.
so-called renewable energy, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's not funny, really. It's not at all
No,
funny.
it's not
And
funny. It's
it's
madness.
impoverishing
We're
the country.
driving through madness because you see these
Yes,
solar farms everywhere,
yeah.
and then you go to towns. Remember one guy, one town, he came up to me. He knew us. He goes, "Yeah, I work at that solar farm down there." I won't say where because I don't want to get in trouble. He goes, "Guess what?
Mhm.
It's not connected." I said,
It's
"What?"
not connected.
It's not
Hell,
connected. Never been
oh hell,
connected. It just sits there.
bloody
It's
hell,
actually not connected, and it's huge. And
oh
he
hell,
and it's not a
Michael.
such thing. That's what he said to me. That's what he
The
said.
the
And he wouldn't
situation's
do an interview. He
hell.
wouldn't do this. But this is what we're dealing with, a madness. We're basically, I say it from the beginning. It's like we're all chickens, right? All of Australia is chickens in a hen house. And we're the
Mm.
chickens that are going, that's a fox. And they're going, you stupid lion, you
Yep.
stupid lying chicken, you Graham Professor, maybe lion, you stupid chicken. You go, Henrietta is hanging out of his mouth. He's covered in blood and feathers. That's a fox. And
Yes,
they
that's right.
defend their killers against those who are questioning and going, this is dangerous.
That's
And
right.
that does my head in. I
Uh,
cannot figure that out. It's a fatiguing thing when you see it in town to town because see to tell you where we are now. Sorry, just give me a few moments.
mm,
I realized that Kelly and I now in this bus because we got the generator and we got the Starlink. We can do our podcast from everywhere. So if we're Australian podcasters, why aren't we
mm,
living on the road seeing it for ourselves rather than sitting in a living room in some city and podcasting from there? Why aren't we on the road seeing this? So you see the space, you see these forests of windmills that don't move. You have the people coming up to you quietly talking about how their town is not only dying, but being taken over by not just by Indians, because I've got nothing against immigrants, but by the mass migration of this. There's a huge cultural tide coming in. You know what I mean? They can't get jobs.
Yeah, that's right.
They're struggling. They go, look, see down the river there? It's full of homeless people. And who's homeless? White Australians and Aborigines. Not the new migrants. They're not homeless. Not putting them down, but it's not anti them, but it's saying these are the realities. Australia is changing right now. When you're on the road, you see it. And what's really interesting, this is the thing that I'm getting over, but it really shook me for a while, is that when Cretton, Wendy and I went round with the first trip, people would be lining up to interviews. The most we did in one day was 15. They were just lining up one after another, one after another. People are now terrified to talk. So you go to country town and they come up and they go, so you'd like to do an interview? No. They're more scared now of repercussions than they were in the COVID era. And so this is why we don't do interviews on the roads. We don't do them. They come up and they'll talk to me, but they just say, I can't do an interview. I won't do one. And so we grab them when we can, but I find that interesting. The country, despite all the facts we're bringing out, despite all the facts that are clearly there to be seen, you just have to look. Instead of the people rising up and going, no, 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 they're going quieter. The only place they're loud on is social media. And what's the government doing? Clamping down on social media. They're silencing this country.
That's right. It's astonishing, Michael. I would have thought it would have gone the other way. Now people would feel confident enough to open up. It's gone the opposite way. And gee,
they don't
you've given
about
them...
their families. They come up to me and go, I remember one person said, they'd been to 16 funerals. This was a mate in Melbourne. 16 funerals he's been to last year, and won't talk.
Wow.
He says, I can't talk because this. They admire what we do, pat you on the back, maybe shove a bit of fuel money in your pocket, whatever, or buy a book, but they can't talk. And
Michael, whenever you're stuck for an interview, I'm always happy to. I can't get into more. Oh, yes, I can get into more strife. I'm not in jail yet, am I? But
no.
I'm in a rather more humble dwelling than I was until September last year, up on the farm.
Sorry to interrupt. Stephen just said it's self-silencing. So what they've meant, if you want an vision of Australia, I saw this during the COVID era. When I was going around, it was like the country was occupied by an invading force, but the invading force was fear. And instead of having soldiers goose-stepping down the streets, they were inside people and they were patrolling their souls, keeping them locked inside themselves. So as far as I'm concerned, this pisses people off. Australia is becoming a country of Anne Franks, except the cellar or the attic is in their souls. They live in there, they stay silent, and they don't talk out in case something happens. And when you do that, when you hide yourself from the world, you lose yourself. And the only reason to be here is to be yourself. It's the greatest gift to be a human being. Be yourself like you're being, Graham. But if you hide yourself out of fear of repercussion, you actually end up killing yourself before your body actually dies. Yes,
you're right. It's often you need to overcome the fear of death to bring out the courage in you. And yourself, there's no one better during this whole COVID era through showing the character of people out there and giving them a voice. You must be up well over 2,000 interviews by now. During that time. No, you've done a hell of a job. In fact, someone I spoke to the other day said Michael is the great poet or raconteur or historian. Yes, historian of this modern era of the last 6 years. It's you, Michael, because you've been out there talking to all these people, giving them a voice. Most of them didn't have it without what you did, and you've traveled the country in such a big way, and you're still doing it. So hats off to you.
Thanks, man. I don't know if that. I love the accolade. I really don't know. I do what I do, But I tell you, like if I turn up towns now, like we're in this caravan park here in Borough, we are shunned. One or two people might come up, but
Yeah, I find
we are
that
not embraced. We are
that's
shunned.
astonishing to me.
Yeah,
I'm
that's true.
astonished by that. Well,
Yeah.
you know,
By normal
if you
people. So we come into a town, we don't have people coming up going, free speech defense, good on you, mate. We might have a few people do this and this. And we have, of course, our community. They're more than happy to see us when they turn
yeah,
up. But
yeah,
the rest just look at us and just give us and Kelly would back me up on this. They give us a wide berth, which makes it very easy to sleep rough because no one will come near us.
Oh, I'm amazed to hear this, Michael. It doesn't bode
Yeah,
well
it
for this
worries me. It
country.
worries me.
That
Online, I see people going like
yeah,
crazy, but in person, I see silence. And I don't think that's a good thing when you're slipping into totalitarianism. I
no,
think
the
communal
outcome for this
silence
country,
is the
yeah,
Vaseline on the tracks. That's how you grease the tracks. You want your kids to have to rise up in 40 years and take on a totalitarian system so they can get their freedoms back. Well, silence is not the way to prevent
no,
that. Silence is
it'll be
grease on the
a lot
tracks
harder.
and we're sliding into it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, these people they think by remaining silent the government will forget about them and keep out of their face, and they might be able to live some sort of a decent life. But I'm afraid in the end they'll get them, and it
Mm.
won't be a good outcome. But they need to show a bit of courage. It's not that hard in my view, but it seems to be hard for a lot of people, and it makes it that much harder for those of us who do try to stand up against this. If we had decent weight of numbers behind us, well,
Thanks,
we would
Jess.
have. Well, look, if 70, yeah, even just 40% of doctors had actually shown a modicum of courage in the first few months of 2020 and said to APRA, get stuffed, you're a bunch of criminals, you're ruled by Big Pharma, TGA, go jump, John Anton LaVey Scarrett, as I call him. As each year went by, he looked more like the Church of Satan founder, Anton LaVey. Tell them to get stuffed. You're criminals. We're not going to obey you anymore. Hardly anyone did. Those who did, they were greatly targeted, lost their licenses, and you and I probably know most of them. And
Mm,
to this day,
mm.
most doctors have not stood up, and
No.
or
But they've
some.
even told me I've met some unvaccinated doctors who have no one knows about them. They've just told me they're unvaccinated and they've got through it through various ways. And they put down our doctors who've defied, going, oh, they're stupid. They've done it that way. They should have done it this way. Got a false ego.
Gee,
I'm
they
thinking,
put them down. Gee,
yeah.
that's terrible.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Calling William Bay stupid. And even
Oh,
though,
gee,
then he had his great win. But I guess they're
yeah,
justifying their own thing. They want to be the heroes in their own life. So they've got to
that's
demonize
right.
those who make them look like cowards.
Yes,
And that's,
that's
I
the
think,
way
why we
people.
lost so many friends. We were brave.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
freedom community, the children of Epic, all of these thinking we were brave. And because we were brave, most people want to be the hero in their own life. We have to be put out. We have to be gone. We have to be idiots because we're actually
yes.
what they want to be. I'm sorry, but that's the
That's
truth.
yeah,
You
you're
know?
right. Everyone
Yeah.
wants to be a legend in their own mind, and
Yeah.
the way to achieving that's by putting down those who have shown genuine courage. They will do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's it's
Yeah.
it's not
No,
good
I
enough.
agree.
It's a cowardly way of operating, and unfortunately, a lot of folk have taken that approach, and it's not good enough as far as people like you and I are concerned.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
it's
But that's
cost
one.
us in certain ways, but
But has it really? I know you've lost your marriage. I know you've lost this. We've all lost stuff.
yeah,
But what have you gained?
yes, I've gained plenty of good new friends and who are on the same wavelength, who I can trust, and uh, my behaviour or their friendships not conditional on me just being normal in my behaviour, shall we say, or going along with the mainstream. And actually, I've always relished not doing that. So not to the extent that Max Egan did. I didn't get thrown out of any primary schools for continually arguing with the teachers. And anyway, he's lived his whole life on the fringes of. He's never been. He's done it remarkably, and hope he can continue to do that. He's got tremendous wisdom, I think. But after 2 hours, of nearly 2 hours and a long, tough run up Mount Lofty earlier, Michael, I've just about lost.
I've got to call it quits 20 minutes ago, but I'll call it quits now so we can get this off. Thank you for having you on. I might get you back on at some time because it's great to have you on. But
thank you.
I'll be in touch with you about those books too, because BAM Book Company, we've got to populate it. But thank you.
Yes.
Professor.
Well, having said that, yes. Oh, thank you. It reminds me of David Thrussell, of course, your friend and mine, who had his.
Great man.
He called it the Forbidden Book Club.
The Forbidden Book Club.
I hope he revives that.
Spoke about them. We're promoting them. That's the difference.
Yes,
so
you're promoting.
Level. No,
that was very good.
I'm going to go so I can keep it under 2 hours. No problem, Professor. And we're going to go. I just want to say we're going to go out with this song called "The Weeping Years." And there's two versions of it. I think this is the slower one that Jan likes. And but if any human wants to do a cover of it, just get in touch. We'll make that happen. And Jennifer Zalmi, Jennifer, let me know if you want to come on tomorrow for a chat. Now, Graham, I'll give you the last word of the day. So go ahead, brother.
Well, look, thank you very much for having me on, Michael. And I greatly appreciate the work you do. And it was a very pleasant surprise to get your call about 10 p.m. yesterday that you were heading for the state and wanted to talk with me again. That was a great surprise, and thank you, and all the best to you and those who are with you. And for the future, we're going to have a few challenges this year, I think, but we can get through this, and hopefully some of what we do is a decent example for others, and hopefully we're not just talking in an echo chamber. There might be one or two others who happen across some of the things that we say and write, and it can change their lives if they need that.
Oh, well, I'll tell you that. So this is a bit of good news. I haven't said this to anyone. Pam got in touch with us. Pam bought a load of books for her family. The family is jabbed, and her daughter read the book and is sending the book to her friend in America or Canada, I think, Canada. So a vaccinated person has now been really moved by Goodbye Road, which is just my sliver of our history, and she's pushing the book to other people. So there's hope. There is hope.
That's a must, I think.
And book, just to finish, like the Goodbye Road. Let me finish we talk about the facts about vaccines and stuff like this. Talking about it from the human level. I'll just finish with this and I'll let you go.
No,
my great-grandfather, my grandfather died an unloved man. He'd been an alcoholic. He'd been in World War I. He'd worked in the mines all his life. And he was orphaned at the age 10, I think, sold to a farm where he sort of grew up on the farm, a bit like a slave, slept in the barn. But his mother died of consumption. So a vaccine, if it's true about smallpox, killed his mother. And then this little tyke, without his mother, had to grow up in that environment, including World War I, including everything else. Drinking maybe to cope because of no support thing, and then because of the drink and the rum in that time, that's how he copes. He becomes a disliked father. Now and that's his legacy. I think this is how we tell the story of vaccines. The people we're losing, the stories from the trench, is how we wake people up. Facts and statistics just go over people's heads. The real stories of people maybe might stand a chance of them realizing that there's more to gain by going against the government than with the government. It's just the government has all the money. That's all they have is the money to pay your mortgage.
You're right. Yes, and
no money, nothing.
That's right. No, look, he would be very proud of the work that you've done in the last 6 years, I think, Michael. And of course, we've got these forests of the fallen out there. Those
Yeah.
people who run those do a tremendous
Yeah.
job. They're still keeping them going here in South
Yeah,
Australia.
Rosemary Marshall, George Keswick. Yeah, we were talking about that today because I found that in Launceston. Selkie was doing it there, and we did the first interview with her.
That's right.
She'd been doing it for a few weeks.
You were the first person to promote her, as you did with
we gave
William
it a name.
Bay.
We christened it because we wanted it.
Yeah,
I said to her, we call it Forest of the Fallen. I realized that the mainstream media would be hard to attack it because however you say it, you can't say it in a bad way. Oh, the Forest of the Fallen. Wherever you say it, it sounds like what is that? So that's why that's what the name was. And it's everywhere. It's still it's a beautiful thing. So
it's been very good. And am I right in saying you are of Scottish and Irish heritage, Michael?
No, I'm Welsh born. I was born in Wales in a town called I'm from a town called Penrhyn-Dydrith, which is in the Snowdonia
someone's got things wrong on the internet because I used to think, yes, you're Welsh, but then I read yesterday, because I want to get my homework right for this interview, that you were of Scottish and Irish heritage.
No,
I don't think it was.
No, I'm Welsh, and my father's 100% Welsh. He had his DNA done. Well, my sister had his DNA done.
Yeah,
he's 100% Welsh. So
well, that kills off my next. I was then going to say, because I'm from Scottish and Irish heritage, we're probably related, but I can't say that.
Oh, we are. We're Celts. We're Celts. The Irish, the Welsh, and the Scottish get on very well. Yeah, we're Celts. Yeah.
We just have to go back a little bit further. Yes. No. Look. Thank you very much for having me on, Michael. It's been a pleasure. And
it's been a joy, brother. Yeah, I very much look forward to it. When you said you were coming on, I thought I'm going to look forward to this chat.
No, thank you.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for spreading, and we'll be back tomorrow. Wednesday, we've got Michael Ginsberg. We're going to talk about how we go forward. But tomorrow's guest is a mystery at the moment. I think I know who it'll be. So anyway, this is the Weeping Years. Graham, you're a gift to us. Keep fighting, fighting. And we'll see if we can run into you when we come to Adelaide. Take care, brother.
Likewise. You're always welcome on the farm here, Michael.
Yeah,
stay as long as you like. Yep.
No worries. Cheers.
Thank you. Take care. Yep.
Oh, this is the rough. This is my favorite version.
My father did everything they told him to, lined up and took every single jab. And every time I beg him, Dad, please just think, he'd just laugh and call me crazy. We spread his ashes at his favorite park. I have to say I thought I was out of tears, until his sister whispered into my ear, my love, my poor love, welcome to our weeping years. Tanya was a nurse working in the bush. She didn't want to take it herself, but because she loved the people out there, she decided to take a chance. Now she's going through a metamorphosis, because Pfizer gave her multiple sclerosis. Now she lives with her mother in the city, like a ghost watching us all forget her. And while she is still too angry for tears, all I could hear in her burning eyes was a broken heart warning me, my love, my poor love, welcome to our weeping years. Welcome to our weeping years. And no one is allowed to talk about it. Take all your pain and keep it to yourself. If vaccines are safe and effective, then you must be the thing that's wrong. You're not worthy of state recognition. You're not worthy of any compensation. Not even worthy of a human singing your song. She was 92 and dying in a nursing home, and because her family said no to the jabs, none of them were allowed to see her, so it was clear she would die alone. But then one of her older granddaughters took matters into her own hands. After after dark, she would break into the home and sneak down the corridors like a thief. Then while the carers were all watching TV, she would climb in bed and spoon her grandmother. She would get into her grandmother's bed and spoon. And even now I can see them there, huddled together like babes lost in the woods. As we and our endless madness hurricane around them, as our madness hurricanes. Oh, can't you hear our gods whispering? If you guys don't find a way to conquer fear, then you're just gonna keep traveling down deeper into the weeping years. Deeper and deeper and deeper into the weeping years. Into the weeping years. And no one is allowed to talk about it. Take all your pain and keep it to yourself. Look around at all these tumultuous years, for lying has replaced the truth, and the one lie